welcome back. I am really pleased to introduce Pierre Laguerre, who is the founder and CEO of Fleeting. It's a digital transportation platform connecting drivers and trucking companies. I've had the chance to speak with Pierre in the past. He's got a great story. He's going to tell his entrepreneurial journey from Haiti to finding this new company that optimizes commercial freight industry. And Pierre, I know you want any slides. You can kind of tell your story. We're looking forward to hearing it. And then if we have any time in the end, we'll have some questions.
Absolutely, Jeff. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Pierre.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. My name is Pierre Laguerre, founder and CEO of Fleeting, a tech company where we leverage our technology to pair CDL truckers with underutilized trucks to give them greater control of their schedule and greater control of their earnings. I'm pretty sure by now, everyone is aware of the news of the issues in the supply chain logistics, right? And it's very unfortunate that our industry is short 1 million truck drivers. And the reason why the industry is short 1 million truck drivers is because drivers have a hard life. Truckers are spending 250 nights away from their family. Truckers don't have the right food options and, dealing with mental health. 7 out of 10 drivers are suffering from diabetes, right? So when you look at that industry, it's very outdated. It's very antiquated. Nobody wants to become a trucker anymore, especially in a day of age when anyone can drive a Lyft or Uber or do DoorDash, right? And make $1,000 and at least sleep in their bed every night. So that's the challenge that we're having in trucking today. And Fleeting is actually solving that problem by actually enabling a gig economy for truckers where they have greater control of their schedule and greater control of their earning. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody probably wondering, why trucking? Why am I so passionate about trucking? Well, trucking became my exit, right? Born and raised in Haiti. I came here when I was 15 years old, and I came here with a dream of becoming a neurologist. And unfortunately, where I landed in Brooklyn, New York, in East Flatbush to be exact, in the early 90s, it was rough. It was a real rough neighborhood. I mean, the norm was drug dealing and gang banging, seeing young men losing their life early, seeing young men getting killed on their way to school or from school. It was really tough. So for me, the fear of becoming a statistic, the fear of becoming a product of that environment, I was always looking for an escape. But first, it was more cultural shock for me because, and I always say this, I say, whoever is America's CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, they do a great job by promoting America across the world, because when you live in another country, you wouldn't believe that America has certain neighborhoods like ghettos where there's a lot of gang. You wouldn't believe that America has poverty. So for me, when I came here, I quickly realized, I said, wait, hold up. That's not the America that I used to see on TV. And again, that was a fear for me. And also it was cultural shock. And I did go to college, study electrical engineering for about a year. But unfortunately, when I came here, it was my mother and my 4 sisters. My dad wasn't around. So I had to become a man for the family very early. And I remember there were times that I couldn't even afford to get on the train and get to school. So I said, you know what? Maybe I'll just get a CDL and drive a truck and never, have to be part of this community. And that's exactly what I did. I obtained my CDL, started working for XPO Logistics, started doing cross country. And America really have a lot of beautiful places to offer, right? And one thing I realized by being a driver was the world did not revolve around the community that I lived in. There was much better places. Then I worked for a performance food group and started doing food deliveries. Now, this is how my entrepreneurial journey started in trucking. I started doing food deliveries in the same college that I was going to. I was delivering food product like water, paper, and I was ashamed about it. I didn't want to be seen. And luckily one day, and I'm saying luckily because my professor is the one that actually put the entrepreneurial spirit in my head. And he saw me, he said, Pierre, what's the matter? Why is you rushing and hiding? I said, well, I dropped out of college to become a trucker, and here I am delivering water here. I don't want to be seen as a loser. And he said, why feel like a loser? I said, well, all the kids are still in school. Here I am delivering food product. And he said, well, how much are you making a year? At the time, believe it or not, I was doing about $93K a year as a driver. And he looked at me and smiled and said, Pierre, look, half of these kids are going to graduate and they're not going to see $93K a year. He said, I want you to own it, be prideful, and be the best trucker you can be. Now, as cheesy that message sound, it really, really resonated with me. A year later, I purchased my own truck and became an owner operator. Now, when you're an owner operator, that means you own your own truck. You're pretty much independent contractor owning your business, as opposed to a company driver where you just show up to work and they just give you the keys and you got to get your deliveries done. Now, being an owner operator, I quickly realized trucking did not have an ecosystem that actually teach entrepreneurship to truckers. Truckers don't know how to build relationship with shippers. Truckers pretty much don't understand their unit economics. So they rely on third parties to kind of help them out. And that comes with a fee. And I quickly realized that was a big issue. I wanted that to change. So Wagner College had a course for supply chain logistics, and I applied for it. And it was a great course for about a year. And my takeaway was that it showed me trucking on a macro level, but I was much more eager to learn trucking on a micro level, the day-to-day operation. So I said, okay, well, what is it that I can start? I decided to start a staffing agency because I realized truckers are always looking for a company that can provide some level of flexibility, treat them like a human being as opposed to being treated as a commodity. And at the same time, trucking companies always looking for great talent. I said, well, what if I start a company where I hire the drivers, groom them, and outsource them back to the trucking companies? How would that work? Launched the company, eventually grew it to 2.5 million in revenue under 18 months. And then also now, I had about 90 something drivers, and there was plenty of drivers available, but I didn't have many accounts to push those drivers. And again, a light bulb went in my head and said, okay, well, everybody's looking for drivers. They can find them. Here I am. I have an overflow of drivers. I said, maybe I should start my own trucking company. So I started the trucking company, started with 3 trucks, and scaled that company to 26 trucks in the first 9 months, and also did over $1 million in revenue in that business. Now, one thing I realized was I was everything in that company. I couldn't delegate. I was the driver, the supervisor, the dispatcher, the sales guy. I was everything in that company. And eventually I started to feel a burn. In 2017, my 3rd child was born, and he was born with Down syndrome. And that actually tore my world apart. I didn't want to accept it. It started affecting me mentally. It started affecting me emotionally. I lost my faith in God. I said, why me? I came here. I did everything I can. Why do I have to have a child, with Down syndrome? I just really couldn't accept it. And my son went into the first open heart surgery. Things got bad, right? He went into the second open heart surgery. Things got really bad. On the 3rd one, things really, really got bad. And I really couldn't put it together. Both of my business now are falling apart. And mentally, I'm all over the place. And one thing I've learned through that process was the power of the tongue, right? The power of the tongue means we have the ability to speak life or death into our own personal life. And I remember that night when the hospital called me for an emergency because my son had an internal bleeding, I was just so fed up. And I remember looking up the sky and said, God, you know what? This is wrong. I can't deal with this. Why don't you just send somebody to blow my head open? I said this at 8 p.m. You wouldn't believe it, by 1 in the morning, I was in the hospital from an attempt carjack robbery with my head blown open. And my forehead, I got a titanium plate in my forehead, 67 staples from left ear to right ear. Now, all my business fell apart. I found myself in a hospital across the street where my son is fighting for his life. And if I could tell you that when I was in the hospital, that I didn't feel the need to, to go out there and find those that did that to me. If I tell you that I didn't have the urge for revenge, I'll be lying. But that's when I quickly realized, what is it that I will achieve if I go out there, pick up a knife or a gun or hurt somebody else because they hurt me? I said, all I'm doing is pretty much keep the same cycle of violence going on, especially in our community. But one thing that really stuck to me, I said, America is short 1 million truck drivers. Meanwhile, you have communities where young men and young women looking for opportunities, they don't know which way to turn. How can I actually solve this problem from a community standpoint? And I made a pact with God. I said, God, if you let me at this hospital alive, I will not retaliate. I will build another business and add tech to solve the problem in supply chain logistics, and also create an ecosystem, a community where I help young men and young women become entrepreneurs in transportation logistics. I came out the hospital 14 days later and hit the ground running, building Fleeting, and went through hell trying to raise capital, couldn't raise capital, went through a lot of pitch competition, couldn't raise any money, till eventually I kept applying myself. And finally, I won my first pitch competition with Chameleon for 100,000. And that also allowed us to launch a campaign on Republic. And also in 2020, I became the first Black man to raise over $1 million on a crowdfunding platform. And to date, we've raised about 2.5 million from institutional and angel investors. And Fleeting was launched since 2019. And to date, we've already surpassed over 5 million in revenue. And 90% of our drivers are returning citizens. So again, my story, I think, I just started to become a little bit more comfortable about my story. And I hope that my story can motivate others. And I hope that my story can really show other entrepreneurs how they can really be a beacon of hope for their community, be a voice for their community. Because again, I personally believe if we change one human being, that changes the community, that changes the state, and eventually we can change our entire country. So for me, this is the passion that I have with trucking, and I want to make it a better place. So yes, so I truly believe, again, the transportation industry can really change a lot of lives, because trucking took me from that marginalized, dangerous community to be where I am today. And again, I believe it can do so for many of others in those communities. And this is why I'm passionate about it. This is why I want to solve the problem. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to keep fighting to bring that change, because people tend to believe a supply chain logistics issue is just a supply chain logistic issue and they don't have anything to do with it. Well, I'm here to tell you that's a lie. If trucking stopped in 3 days, this country will be in complete anarchy, right? We will run out of food. We'll run out of clean water supply. Again, it'll be a mess. So for me, again, this is not just to build a company where investors get a large return, but for me, it's much more about the social impact. So I think that's something every entrepreneur should think about when we build businesses, when we become entrepreneurs. Build something that solves a problem, whether it's for your community, whether it's for your family, but we all have the ability to do it. And there's one model that I live by, and I think every entrepreneur can benefit from it, is the best thing ever invented is 24 hours. And what do I mean by that is, do not let yesterday's trouble worry your journey, right? We all have the ability to change our biology. We can change our surrounding. We can change our own reality with another 24 hours. So God granted me another 24 hours to be here today, sharing my story with entrepreneurs. And again, I want to continue building. I want to continue sharing opportunities for millions of others across this world. And I'm very grateful for America, because America has allowed me the opportunity, again, to be where I am today. And as much trouble that I've went through in my community, I now realize those troubles were part of my journey, because it makes me a better man, it makes me a better father, a better friend, a better CEO. So again, if you're going through anything in your life, do not let that be your stopping stone. Use it to be your stepping stone and make a change in our world.
Wow. You have any more for us, or?
I mean, I can't keep going all day.
Well, let me ask a couple. First of all, has anyone offered to buy the rights to your story and make a movie out of this?
Yes, I've been speaking to some people about it, and I feel like it's very early. I think I still have a lot more to go, but yes,
Yeah.
the process of writing a book.
Yeah, why don't we wait till you're on top of Fortune or Forbes magazine, and then the movie will come out. And before I get to a more serious question, do you know who you'd like to play you in the movie?
That's a good question, right? I think I would probably even love to play my own movie, I think.
All right, you want to do it yourself?
But I haven't
Okay.
thought about that yet.
Okay, all right. Well, something to
I
think
haven't
about.
thought about that yet.
Well, it's interesting because we've had different people talking about, during these 3 days, about things like leadership, right? In fact,
Yep.
The previous speaker was talking about something about burning your boats, meaning once you commit yourself, you were in a situation where you didn't really have any boats to burn. There was no return for you. You really had one direction to go, and that really drove you. When you looked for investors, when you went to investors, how big did your story play in that, in terms of the passion? How important was your passion in their investment?
That is one thing that I really, really learned very early. I was always afraid of sharing my story, right? And once I learned to own my story, things become to be a lot better, because I realized investors don't invest in product, right? Investors invest in people. Investors want to know that you're a winner. Investors want to know that, hey, look, regardless of what the challenge is, you're going to figure it out. So once I realized that my story was a very important part of my process and my journey, I started really relying more on it and giving investor a true understanding of who I am, where I came from, and why I believe in this business. And that allowed investors to, again, not just believe in me solving what I'm solving, but believe in me as an entrepreneur. So that was very, very important part of my journey.
Yeah. Now, the trucking industry goes through a lot of changes, and of course, you can't not see in the media discussions about future of the driverless trucks and things along that line. Do you see? And I think when you and I talked, I think we agreed that it's going to take a while for that to hit on the micro level, right? Maybe yes, maybe some long trucking, cross country trucking might kind of go in that direction, but trying to get a parking spot in front of in New York City, trying to get it. Good luck on the driverless for the next couple of years. But still, you're a young guy. Long term, where do you see yourself and this business going?
Yeah, definitely. For me, long term is really, really changing how drivers operate, right? As far, again, drivers spending 30 days on the road, not seeing their family, I really see that becoming where we actually create a new gig economy for truckers, where they can actually create their own schedule and control how much they make. But you talk about, the autonomous truck, and it's not to say that I don't believe in autonomous. I think Sometimes it may work, but if you look at it, in order for us to hit critical mass, we're going to have a lot of data points, right? And we always talk about autonomous, but there's a safety risk that nobody really thinks about, right? A truck can haul up to 40,000 pounds of goods, right? And I always say this, you have truck that haul fuel, jet fuel, diesel, right? Those things are highly flammable. You got truck that haul poison, right? You have truck that haul all types of hazardous material. And I always use this as an example. If big companies like TransUnion and Equifax is getting hacked, what makes you think that somewhere around the world, one of America's enemy would not hack a diesel truck or full of jet fuel and trying to ignite in the city? So again, when we talk about autonomous truck, we have to be very careful because there's a safety component that I haven't heard nobody really stress on yet. But we speak about them.
I've thought about that as well when I've been hearing stories back to back about these kind of things. I agree with you. And also, again, when you talk about the last mile, we're talking about smaller trucks, perhaps drivers of vans and other things, right? And the cost of making all those driverless is just not going to happen. So, Pierre, there you are. You're back with us. When we talk about the organization, do you, in terms of like leadership and stuff, are you bringing on people to become other managers and stuff like that? And the growth in your organization, are you still kind of doing too much of everything?
No, so yes, definitely. I mean, for now, still kind of, wearing many hats again, because there's a lot to figure out. For us is not saying that we truly assuming that we know exactly what the problem is. We take our time to really speak to drivers. We take our time to speak to carriers, to speak to shippers. But yes, we're starting to bring a lot of managers in because this is where right now we're at the intersection for scale and we're ready for it. So we are doing some hiring around, definitely bringing managers and bringing VPs around, again, to be a little bit more strategic, where I don't have to wear many hats and I don't have to have my hand in every pot, because I understand as a leader, your job is to find the people that have the right qualities, the right talent, to bring them into the organization to help that organization get to where it needs to be. So yes, we are in the process of hiring managers.
Yes, great. We have a question, and really, it's a very general question, but someone starting from completely scratch, they're asking, what's just your best piece of advice for someone starting from the beginning? What would you just tell somebody that wants to start something?
What I really want to say, man, is starting from scratch, you're going to have a lot of self-doubts, right? You're going to worry about fear. You're going to worry about failing. You're going to worry about what other people's going to say. So I would say, you know what, go do it anyway, because regardless of whether you succeed or not, the world is going to remain the world. But the fact that you have the idea of starting something, you are totally different from the rest of the world. The rest of the world is totally okay with just being an employee. Now, again, this is not to say there's anything wrong with an employee. There's a difference between a builder and there's a difference with somebody that can become part of something that's building, right? So when you're a builder, you see things from a different lens. So I would definitely say, hold on to that dream, right? Ask questions, be fair with yourself. One piece of advice I would say is have an open mind, but attach yourself to nothing, right? And that's very important as an entrepreneur. I'm not sure what business that person is looking to start, but look around you. Look at the things that, people may struggle with. Look at the things that you probably struggling with on a personal level. And then just think about it and say, you know what? How many people across the world that are having the same issues? And when you think of it that way, you start removing yourself out of what it is that you're building. You start looking at it as an impact, as you changing the world, as you adding value. So I would definitely look into yourself, because the answer is always there, but do not let fear or doubts get in the way of that, because the world is waiting for whatever it is that you're building. And I can tell you, the people that never put those things out, I could show you where they are. If we go to a cemetery, I could show you how many people died with an idea and never executed on them, right? So you're still breathing. So I would say whatever that idea is, just go ahead and put the work out there, because we're waiting for it and the world needs it.
Well said, Pierre. One other thing, we have a couple more minutes. I know that you and I, when we talked the first time, you mentioned about your mentoring and the kind of things that you're doing, giving back to community, and you have a program. So I thought maybe you want to take a couple minutes, just talk a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. Recently, I just launched Pierre's Academy, and Pierre's Academy is really about teaching people about, transportation logistics, the opportunities. Now, I understand that everybody can't be a driver in trucking, right? But there's so many different ways you can become involved in transportation. You can be a dispatcher and work from home and still make six figures. And dispatching is really, really important because that's a support system for truckers while they're on the road. Truckers, especially the drivers that own their own trucks, right? They have to drive and they have to call brokers. They have to negotiate with brokers to find a good paying load. So you becoming a dispatcher, you're actually helping that driver on the ground, making the best decision so he can actually maximize his trucks throughout the day. And also a freight broker. You can become a freight broker and provide real reliable services to shippers and trucking companies. All of that is business that you can do from home. So Pierre's Academy is actually geared around that, to where I say, okay, if you want to get in transportation, but you don't want to be a driver, but this is what you can do to actually add values. And we're doing great. We have about almost 400 students in our university and continue growing. So thank you for asking that question, Jeff.
Oh, sure. No, I think it's wonderful that you've done that. I do have another question. I want to ask you that because your unusual background, and you didn't go to business school. You didn't probably take a lot of business classes. You took some other kind of classes, I know, with regard to logistics and stuff. But how did you get your business plan put together? Who was your advisor? How did you approach the investor the first time? And how did you go about that, putting together a plan?
That's a great question, Jeff. And to be honest with you, and still to this day, this is one of those things that kind of bother me. I always feel like I still want to go to school and get an MBA, right?
Yeah,
because I feel like I always have to lean on somebody for those type of things. But again, I realized I spoke to this young lady, Hercella Burns, the first Black woman that was the CEO of Xerox. And one thing that she said that stuck with me was, in leadership, there's two types of way you lead, right? One, you lead from the front, and two, you lead from the back, right? And leading from the front is say, okay, well, you make this decision and everybody follow it and we execute on it and we deal with, whatever the outcome is. And leading from the back is you have to trust others, right? To make those decisions, and you have to support them in those decisions and bring in people that are smarter than you. And I think that is where I was able to really understand the importance of having somebody that is a lot smarter than me, that really understand business. So I want to say our CTO, Eric, is also our COO, very business minded, and he is the one that really, really make a difference in our company. He's really, really helpful. He understands business. Not only he understands tech, but he really understands how to write a business plan and how to actually execute a business. So for me, although I feel like I still want to go to school and get my MBA, and I still want to become a neurologist, right? And maybe when I retire, I might just start performing surgery for free across the world. But I think, getting my MBA is definitely something that I want to get, because I feel like that's one of thing that make me feel like that's a weakness that I have within me. But by listening to Hercella's message, it really realized that is a true strength to know that, okay, well, I am not good at this, and let me find somebody that's really good at it and put them in a position to win. It's all about finding the right people and also putting them in the right position to win as a leader.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You've just echoed a lot of what people have been talking about over the last couple of days with regard to leadership. You know, it's knowing what you don't know, knowing where to get help, and that you don't have to be, as one of the previous speakers said, you could be the jack of all trades and master of none, but it's really hard to find someone that has that ability to touch all the points and to really understand all that and have the courage like you have to go and do what you've done. So this is really interesting. I don't know if there was any other questions out there. If there are not, we will send people back to the lobby and they can get ready for the next presentation. Pierre, this was wonderful. And, again, we've been in touch. We'll continue to stay in touch. We'd love to have you back for some of the other things that we're doing, and wish you a lot of continued success.
Thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate it. I look forward to staying in touch. Any other event, just sign me up. Love this. Thank you.
Terrific. Thanks, Pierre.
Thank you. All right.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.